All right, gents, let's rock and roll. We got a lot to cover.
So for those of you that weren't here last week, this is Jason Fields. He did an excellent job just going over money management strategies last week, budgeting and credit. And so this week he's going to be taking us through investing and retirement planning and anything else. But super good brother. I'll let him tell you the rest of his story as part of his introduction. But
Thanks.
that is just.
So, really quickly, thank you all for coming last week and for coming this week. And just so you all know, this is supposed to be like a high-level overview of some of this stuff. So, the goal, Patrick, was for us to really get to a point where we touch on some of this stuff. And then throughout the year, periodically, we come back to some of these things and start getting deeper into. So, if we don't necessarily get into something, that just means it leaves the opportunity for us to get into it at a later date, potentially. So the first thing I want to do, because investing is one of my favorite topics. You all, a little bit of background about me. I was a former state legislator, state representative of the Wisconsin State Legislature for, I think, 12 years or something like that. I tried to put it behind me. Also, before that, I was a former stockbroker portfolio manager. Helped manage around roughly $100 million. Then I had a friend of mine, we started our own, it's called Walker Fields Investments, where we managed $22 million. Long story short, I have a great deal of experience in this stuff. I'm not a guru, but I did have to get certified, educated, licensed to do all this stuff. So I had a property and casualty insurance license, a life and health insurance license. Then I moved to securities, where I managed money and investments. I had a Series 6, 7, 63, and 65 securities license. I'm a certified economic developer. Currently, I'm the president and CEO of Madison Region Economic Partnership. That's an economic development organization that covers 8 counties in South Central Wisconsin. I'm a certified financial education instructor. And I'm also a certified capital raise specialist, meaning I'm a person that tries to help other people raise money. So first thing I want you all to do, you have $1,000. Do not use your cell phones on this. You have $1,000. I want you to pick 2 to 3 stocks or companies that you would have or have invested in as of November 1st, 2023 of last year. We're going 6 months back. You have $1,000. Y'all got that?
Question.
Go ahead.
Can it be ETFs or can it just stocks?
It could be ETF.
Okay.
Jason, explain ETFs or just a brief definition of that, just for everyone.
Electronically traded funds, ETFs, sort of like mutual funds. Basically, what it is, we may get into some of this. ETF funds are basically, it's like a mutual fund. They put a lot of the companies or stocks or companies into one basket, one portfolio. And for in layman's terms, they treat it like it's one company, one stock. Mutual funds, same thing. A bunch of companies all in one basket, but for investor purposes, they treat it like it's one share or one company. So and I'll show you, we'll go through some of this. You can have an ETF fund that may have 4 or 5 different companies.
Okay.
And they'll treat it like it's one stock. I'll show you that because it's better when you see a visual aid. Then you have some things called index funds. Those are like Standard & Poor's, S&P 500. Basically what they do is they mirror or track the investments in the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ, and it's all those companies, but they treat it like it's one stock. I'll show you that when we get to this portion. So, did that help you guys a little bit?
Yes.
All right. So you all picked your stocks, right? What stocks did you pick? What stock?
I picked Coca-Cola. I picked Google. And the other was, I think I put stock that put behind for them, for some reason. Yeah,
Coca-Cola, Google, what you got, sir?
My pen's not working, but Bitcoins, the Bitcoins.
What's Bitcoin?
Which one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Forgot which one I'm doing.
You either doing, it's like $1,300 of those right now, I believe. Which Bitcoin you got? Ethereum, Lite, which one?
Ain't Dogecoin
I don't know all 1300.
one? That's one of them, Dogecoin.
Let me go back. Pick three stocks, companies. We'll touch on Bitcoin, but let's keep it simple right now. So,
I do like Fanuc Automation, it's like an automation company.
is it private or public?
I don't know, I wouldn't know.
Write that down and then we'll take a look at it. Well, give me some other ones.
CVS Pharmacy.
CVS. I believe CVS is public. Hold on. Sir? All right, sir?
Microsoft and Salesforce, that's part of my day-to-day job.
Investing in stuff you buy.
Pat?
I'm going NVIDIA.
Spell it in EIIA.
I-D-I-A, I think it is.
NVIDIA?
NVIDIA, yep.
NVIDIA or N?
NVIDIA.
All right.
And Palantir.
Spell it.
I think it's Palantir.
All right.
We're going with Amazon. But I was thinking about NVIDIA. I think Patrick might have a beat on the earnings there.
Actually went on Amazon because that's where
I'll keep
buy
that.
stuff all the time.
All right.
I'm thinking more in terms of ETFs, so I'll go with Vanguard,
Vanguard, which one?
VTI,
VTI?
yeah, and
That's
then I'll
the ticker
just
symbol?
kind of give us the sections, VTI, then there's another one, VXUS,
VXUS?
and then there's a VND.
VND. Sir?
My first day here, so,
Pick a company.
I don't know the company, but three was cannabis, Amazon, and Prison.
What's the other one? Chris?
Amazon and Prison, I heard the stock came out, so, I can't recall.
Write it down and we'll take a look at it.
Looking at it,
So, for sake of argument, these are the ones we got. And you all invested $1,000. Maybe you split it up, 500, 200 in each one. What we're gonna do at some point is go through, let's say you put, well, we'll go through it, I'll figure out the dollar breakdown, but this is what you chose. So I'm gonna keep that there for a second until we get to the point where we start going through all the investment stuff. What I wanna do is touch a little bit on, I'm gonna recap a little bit of what we did last week, and then get to, the retirement investing stuff, wills and estate plan. I wanna do the wills and estate planning stuff first, because quite honestly, that's something that we don't talk a lot about. But you need to start thinking about who's your financial team. If you're looking at a will, which everybody should have, and the reason why you wanna have a will is because, I'll tell you this, I think I said last week that one of the number one reasons for divorce is money. It's not infidelity, it's financial stuff. One thing that breaks families apart, and I've seen this stuff, is when somebody passes away, it's like a freaking free fall to see who's gonna get what. And I'll tell you, family members turn on each other, man, quick, fast, in a hurry. I've seen sisters, brothers, uncles, husbands, wives turn on each other because the person, whoever it was, did not take the precautionary steps to basically say, when I pass away, here's how I want stuff to happen or go. That's one reason. The other reason why you want it is because it's what happens is when you pass away, they call this estate in estate. That means the court gets to come in and decides what happens to all the stuff you own. So imagine if you in a blended family. You got a son or daughter from a previous marriage, or she has one. Y'all got together, you have kids. Now, the family is again fighting, but they don't have any say-so because the court now gets to come in and say, hey, you didn't leave any instructions on what's supposed to happen, so here's what we're going to decide. So, when we talk about these things, I'm gonna get into this. This is the only thing I hear about these kind of. I'm gonna go through a recap of what we talked about last week really quickly. Knowing the cost of your credit. I think most of you understand this stuff. It's expensive to be poor. When you don't have good credit, it costs you more money. It's easier to pay things up front if you can, because if not, you end up, in this case, you paying for the same device or whatever product, you ended up paying more because you're borrowing your credit and you're not paying it off up front. So you can see that's almost $1,000 more, and how much longer, and that's if you pay $50 a month. You want to pay off your high interest debt first. Some people there, what do we call this strategy? I always get it was the avalanche strategy. There's another one called the snowball. But whenever you're doing this stuff, you need to figure out and determine what's best for you, because each one of you are in different phases and stages of your life. So what may work for me may not work for you. What may work for Pat may not work for you, may not work for me. So you really have to decide on what you are comfortable with. And why did I say we need to decide those kind of strategies? I said this over and over again. It's not the technical stuff that'll kill you. What is it? The emotions, the mindset. If you don't stick to this stuff, if you don't have a game plan, that's typically what kills people. The technical things you can learn. So here's the cycle of debt and credit. You incur the debt, you pay the debt, you establish credit when you do that. And in most cases, it will improve your credit score, but you have to continue to do what? Pay it off, pay it on time, because y'all know it affects you when you don't do that stuff. And the more riskier you are, the higher the credit, the interest rates. Credit score, you all know, 850, excellent credit. I would say 300, I would say 500 is bad credit. Because you have financial organizations and companies that will still deal with you, but the reality is that the interest rate that you're gonna have to pay is almost insane. I see you saying yes, sir. Yeah. So here you go, just in case an impact on a 200,000 year mortgage. You have a credit score between 760 and 850. Look at the difference. Look at the difference. Now, quite honestly, that rate is sort of based on what interest rates are now. That's when interest rates are low. You are not paying that right now. Yeah, you might be in the double digits.
Wish we were back there.
Yeah. So, improve your credit score. You all know what you need to do on that. So, before we get to that, because I want to spend a lot of time on that, what are the 5 most important estate planning documents that you need to have? You guys have it in front of you. You need to have your will. You need to know, and for rule of thumb, let's get rid of the myths. There is no financial amount that you need to have in order to have a will or not. You need to have a will, period. I don't care if you in debt, I don't care if you a millionaire, you need to have a will so that you have some control to avoid all the things we talked about. What's going to happen to what you have, what you own, and so you need a will. Power of attorney. Someone who manages the aspects of your life when you're not able to. Now, for my family, my grandmother and my mother and father, all those, I'm the oldest son, so I tend to be this person. And me and my wife, we're getting a lot of stuff together. So this is the reason why you want somebody who's designated, who you trust, to be in a position to, when you get to a point, possibly, or even if you don't, you want these things in place. Yes, sir.
In terms of, healthcare power of attorney and financial power of attorney, my thought, or at least I hope it is in the right direction, but will you have the same person be those two, or do you need to split them up? You know, like you have one be healthcare and one be financial?
I don't think it's, I think what it boils down for me is it a person you trust, ultimately? You can have someone, I don't think there's a rule of thumb that says they should be or not be the same person, right? I think you have to decide on what you're comfortable with, and quite honestly, what that person is comfortable with. Now, you may wanna have two different people, but then think about it, there's pros and cons of both. You have two different people, one is the power attorney, one is the healthcare directive, then they gotta get together. What happens if they don't see eye to eye, right?
Okay.
So this is where your will and all those things have to be laid out, so that in any case, everybody has a game plan or format to follow. So regardless of whether it's the same person or two different people, you need to spell out, here's exactly what I want to happen.
Yeah. Concern is that someone who is not detail oriented, and you put that person in place, that can be a mess.
Sir, I think you answered Joe. Just that.
And that's a great point, Dr. Wilma, because, and I'll use myself, or I'll use my family as an example. So when both my parents got ill, my dad was power of attorney for my mom when she developed Alzheimer's and dementia. He knew that it was better for him to be in that position, number one, as her spouse, her spouse, than my sister or I, because we couldn't
Yeah.
handle it emotionally.
Yeah.
Now, when my dad got to the point where he couldn't care for himself and make decisions, my sister's 10 years older than I am, but he put me in that position because he knew she couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And so it was more than, I mean, not that I was horribly broken up about it, but he knew that I would be able to handle those type of decision-making items in the moment, rather than he could. So yes, it's both like the diligence and the ability to make those decisions emotionally and financially, like you got sound judgment, you just gotta know who that person is.
Okay, does that mean then you talk to them about it together or each separately to determine who you fit to be?
I think what my dad did is he just watched us grow over the
Evolve.
years and went, you know what?
Right.
Okay.
I can tell you from experience what my wife and I did. We came to the conclusion that we needed to sit down after we talked, and so we did a dual power of attorney for me, and we did a dual power of attorney for her. So that if something happens to me, she's got all the say, if something happens to her, I got all the say, so there is no argument with other family members. You see that, your point is that when you get, it might be a brother or sister out there, and they're gonna feel like they wanna be included in what's going on, and so you have to actually, if you got the documents, you need to talk to them, show them, and then if it's anything legal comes up, then you need that, because you might have to make a decision about your mom, put her in, assisted living, or, you know, not that, but, you know, whatever that decision be, my wife and I thought that it would be better for us to have that, on both sides, so, it's just a take.
I got a question, just to confirm for me, a power of attorney is only active while that person is alive, right?
Well, no, I think the power of attorney is, you know, whenever, if that person is alive, I mean, yeah, because once that person, I don't know if it extends past death, but typically what happens is when that person gets into a state where they can't think or decide or do something for themselves, that's typically when those kinds of things kick in. So once that person passes away, this is where you need to have, again, wills, because legally I gotta find that out. If the power of attorney ceases upon that, then what happens next? And this is where you have to decide as who's going to be your financial team, right? Because you need an accountant or a tax person, you need a lawyer for a will and potentially a trust. Trust, I would say you probably need to have a will and a trust. Now, the rule of thumb is if you have a net worth over $100,000, you should have a trust. People will say, there are always opinions about this stuff, and it all really depends on people's scenario. And I think I said this before, a good financial person will not just come out and tell you exactly what you need to have, because everybody's situation is different. So they will tailor their advice and counsel based on where you're at, and more importantly, where you want to go and what you want to have. So a will and a trust you need to have, because again, you want to get as specific as possible. And here's one of the things that happens a lot. We don't talk about this stuff in our families until it's too late. My family, we talk about this stuff not all the time, but every Tuesday, my immediate family, we all get on the horn and we talk about business and what happens. My grandma, and it's sometimes as jury as it is, there is a relief in the sense that there's no guessing game when this stuff happens. We know exactly what we're supposed to do. We know where each other's documents are. We know in case of the freaking apocalypse, we all have a game plan for that. You know? So what we try to do, and I said this before jokingly, but it's true. My wife used to say, y'all, you guys, we run our family like a business. We do. We talk about all this stuff as uncomfortable as it may be. Because I'll tell you, when it comes to stuff, particularly money, you all, the devil can get up in people quick.
Yes.
Quick, man. I've seen it. I've seen people who loved each other turn on each other. So you don't want any of that stuff to happen. Any other questions as we continue the movement? And feel free to keep just popping them away. I'm sorry. So you want a healthcare directive. Y'all remember, you at the hospital, something happens. Now people arguing over what's gonna happen to you in the hospital. And this is, sir, to your point where this stuff comes in at, we neglect emotionally how people will act and feel. It's not a right or wrong. You pass away, I don't know if you have kids, doctor or not, but you, how many? 4. 2 might say, hey, we love dad, we wanna see this thing, we ain't ready to give up.
Yeah.
It's 2, you got 2 like that. The other 2 like, yo, dad was great. Love him. We love him to death, but you know. And now, you know, the 2 sentimental ones are like, I can't let dad go. Yes, sir.
You took one of the point. I have a friend. I grew up. He older than me, probably 15 years older than me. He had a really bad accident in Honduras.
Mm-hmm.
So I give up work. Honduras, when you find a job position, you gotta take care of it.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to get another position, especially if you're making really good money, right? So my friend had an accident with the whole family. Car flipped over like 5 times. Wife fell out the window. The little baby stayed in the car seat. The wife fractured. He got ribs broke. His spine broke. He was in the hospital for like 3 months, conscious. So I remember that nobody wanna help him, right? And then I take that position. I leave work, so I get my position to somebody else. So I leave work. So knowing the consequences was gonna be big for me, right? But he see me like this is a real friend. I'd help him to go to the bathroom, all that kind of stuff. Well, I'm gonna make the story short. So like years later, so he went back normal, right? He walked in, so he traveled to New York, legal. He stayed here, so I stayed in Honduras, right? and he was helping me a lot. So not long ago, his mom passed away, right? She got all the paper, like you said,
Yeah.
she was in that position that she's working in. Him is gonna be the one decide what the property, the money that they have, because they have a lot of business, right? So they got a fight, because they say it's not fair, I work hard like you, and blah, blah, blah. He said, this is legal, you live this with us, so this is yours, so not long ago, he left from New York to Honduras, right? One of his son, he find out he already do the document, and then, before his mom died, that's the reason he went over there.
Mhm.
Before his mom died, he was fighting already for his money.
Yeah.
And then he alive, like you say, like, yeah, it's two of the kids that can be saying, like, you can start going, like, fighting for the money already because, like, oh my God,
Yes, sir.
yeah.
Can the power of attorney be contested?
Everything can be contested. And people can, nothing is guaranteed, nothing is airtight.
Yeah.
This is America. Everything can be contested.
Yeah, for instance, if I were in a situation and say, if I'm in a persistent vegetative state,
Mm-hmm.
and if the doctors figure if I were to be disconnected, then the Lord takes me home.
Mm-hmm.
But my kids say, no, we want dad to be on this thing until hopefully someday he will wake up. You know, that kind of situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things happen. I mean, remember the case, we watched it on TV. The Terry Schiavo case.
Right.
That kind of stuff happened. And I think in her case, it was what, mom and dad, or it was mom and dad and the husband?
Yeah, right.
So this is the husband saying, hey,
This is what she wanted.
this is what she wanted. Mom and dad, different opinions.
Mhm.
And I think in her case, she may have even had documentation, or maybe she did. But the issue is, and I don't want to leave the impression that even when you do these things, that somebody can come along and go, hey, but you want to be as clear as possible so that, quite honestly, you give the people who have to look at the law, to look at the legalities to go, this is it.
Yeah.
Right here, it's plain documentation, this is it. We understand how you feel, but this is it. And you should periodically be reviewing those things in case something changes.
Right.
Because, again, it's already bad enough when the person has to face a loss or deal with loved ones or something happens. The last thing you want to do is turn over all the decision making into somebody who, quite honestly, will be so impacted that it's just hard for them to get through it and start making logical decisions.
Mhm.
You don't want to have a person making emotional and rash decisions around finances. And none of this stuff is necessarily airtight. Everything can be contested. Even beneficiary designations can be contested. Even though you have it, there's nothing stopping somebody from saying, hey, I want to go to class. We don't like this, but we don't agree. But what you want to do is, again, hey, here's where we're at. It doesn't mean that everybody's going to be happy. In fact, most people probably won't be. You have a beneficiary, you have 4 kids. Maybe you started off with a great relationship with 1 or 2, you love them all, but over time you watched, you saw, and if you all didn't talk about it, you open yourself up to some of that stuff.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I'm sure there's like different legal precedent around different document types. I'm not asking you to be
Right.
specific, but just when I hear like these aren't going to be airtight, clearly I mean, the intent is to make it as airtight as possible. So I guess like outside of contesting these from the standpoint of the person that executed it might not have been of sound mind when they did it. Are there any other kind of like common reasons that these are contested?
That may be one, it could be sound mind, it could be that person who's in that position now. Are they financially able to make these kinds of decisions? It could be, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but depending on why someone can contest it, again, if where you wanna be is in spite of those things, because they will look to see that, is this person capable of making these decisions? Where's this person at? But to a certain degree, those are things that the opposing party would have to prove, that this person is not competent enough to be making his decisions, or this person is not ethically, morally inclined to be making these decisions. The problem though is, even with that, if it's documented, now whoever you set it up with, your people have to go, hey, this is what it is.
Yeah.
So, again, everything can be contested, but you do wanna try to make it as airtight as possible. That doesn't mean that it won't be contested. Doesn't mean that it'll work or things will change, but it doesn't stop it from being contested. My father, they named me, all this stuff. My brother could go, hey man, I wanna contest this. Don't mean it's gonna change the outcome, but it's not stopping them from saying, I don't agree. I can, and the court, they have to hear that stuff.
So, question, if it's contested, then who gets to pay the legal fees?
I'm not sure, I don't know, I would imagine if it's contested, it's the person that's bringing
Okay,
the
I'm
case.
hoping not from the estate,
Well, it depends. I mean, again, I don't want to get into legal advice. If it depends. If you have a trust and a will, now your estate, if they plan to fight it, you're gonna have to pay something. Unless you're gonna represent yourself, right? So that's why you want this stuff, to get to a point where it's so much documented that contesting it is not even worth it.
Okay.
That's really what you're trying to get to. Why even contest it? Because it's clearly laid out. So now we get to a point where this is not even feasible to be doing this. Yes, sir.
I ran into something similar to this, when my mom passed, my dad passed first. And my sister didn't agree with some of the ways my mom had things set up.
Yep.
And she went to a lawyer, and to that lawyer's credit, the lawyer would not let her sue it. She's like, you don't have a leg to stand on.
Right.
We don't like this.
Yep.
It's not, it's too clear, it's too worded. Yeah.
So it don't mean that it can't get contested. It does mean that you want to be in a position where somebody looks at it, a lawyer, a judge, and goes, look, you got nothing here.
Yeah.
It's clear.
So what happens is, we're in that situation now, a couple of things happen. My father, before he passed, had a will with my mother designating the house to my sister. So now my father passed, when he passed, my mother took it over and changed the will and says when she dies, the house has to be split 3 ways. Well, my mother now is in a retirement home, getting ready, in a slow case. So my sister's getting a lawyer. So when my mother passes, if she's still alive, my sister's gonna fight it. So she has it where she has the old will. So I don't know how it's gonna come out, but she has the old will of my father that said the house is for her. But my mother changed it, so we don't know.
Whose will was it? Was it
It was my dad and my mother together.
together?
But when he passed,
Then she
my mother
put it-
said, hey, I'm putting it this way, that it has to be split between 3. But my sister had the old will, said, hey, I'm gonna fight it, and she's getting a lawyer for it if something.
I mean, again, this
But
is
that's
not
what I'm
stopping
saying.
that. I'm
It's
not a
gonna be
lawyer.
contested. Now, that's what
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer. It doesn't mean it can't be
Right.
contested, but what supersedes that is the new potential will.
That's what I'm saying. yeah.
Right, if there's legal ramifications, or legal jargon that says your mom now, after your dad passed, all this stuff is legit,
Yeah.
then it's up to her.
Just like you said, it can't be contested.
Anything and everything can be contested.
No, go ahead, I was gonna make a comment. These things should be prepared by a lawyer,
Yes,
okay? So that, and that lawyer needs to walk you through all of the scenarios, so that when you sign on the line and you know that you're going to become the person who's gonna make the final decisions, whether that be medical or financial, but I'm just saying, you do need to go to the lawyer with that stuff, cause we had to.
Yeah.
We actually had a lawyer to help us go through and prepare it, and then we felt good about it. So, but you're right, though, these arguments, I'll just, we all have them. Somebody in the family died, you don't find it out till you get to the funeral. Okay, and then it's a big thing then, right? It becomes, all of a sudden, the brother is mad at the sister, who's mad at the cousin, and you know what, a lot of times, it's not that much money to be arguing
about. So you wanna have a will, and again, a trust. Rule of thumb, technically, that if you have $100,000 net worth, you should start looking into a trust. Again, I'm not a lawyer, I don't wanna give you financial advice or legal advice, but you should have all these things in place so that based on your situation, you can have someone helping draft legally by understanding where you're at and then where you wanna go. And then there's three kind of primary trusts. Most of the ones we talk about are either revocable or irrevocable. Irrevocable meaning, once you put it down on paper, you cannot change it. Revocable meaning, you can change it and modify it. Now, you should be doing this stuff, reviewing periodically, because things change.
Even the
Irrevocable is once it's there, you can't change it. Now, again, everything can be contested.
Okay, no, what I mean is, you said it should be reviewing it, but can you review the irrevocable?
You should, you should. Now, I don't know if it's irrevocable and things change drastically, then you have to, okay, what do we need to do?
Okay.
Again, you need to have a lawyer and find some, either accountant to start working through certain scenarios so that they can tell you, because in some cases, revocable trusts are good for certain people. It depends on the situation. Maybe you got some horrible kids who you know, just not ready. Right? Maybe you got, I don't know, anything that happens, you need to work through a person with a lawyer or an accountant and some financial person, because you need to put all this stuff together.
Okay.
And you need to run through certain scenarios based on where you're at and more importantly, where you want to go. What you want to happen.
Okay.
Because they need to be in a position to follow a, as airtight as you can make it, game plan. So that if it is contested, hey, this is what it is. Everything comes back to this, you all. You need a plan. It all comes back to that. You need to have some kind of strategy or plan. And not having, or the myth of not being a rich or a millionaire is no excuse to not have a plan. You need to have a plan so that where you want to go or what you want to happen will happen. You don't have to be you don't have to be a 10-figure income making person, but you need to have a plan with a will and a trust. Now, there are places where you can go, that you can get these things, you can sort of plug and play, if you will. There are platforms called Will and Trust. There's documents, legal documents that you can go to. I would say though, if you want to be airtight, look at this stuff as an investment, not as you spending money, because you really want to have people who understand and know this stuff. Any other questions about that?
You have a link to the free ebook. Is it, it's not a stick?
Yeah, I can send all this stuff to you, Patrick, and Patrick can send it to you.
Okay.
I can send it out.
Thank you.
All right, my favorite topic. Any questions that maybe we didn't answer about, or any questions that you want to know while you're here that maybe we should take a look at some point around saving and investing? Off the top of your head? maybe let me ask this question. So why are you here? That would be better. Why are you here, sir?
I'm here to support you, actually, tell you the truth.
Okay, I appreciate that.
And pick up as much knowledge as I can in my old age, you know.
I appreciate that.
But, that's pretty much it while I'm here.
I'm here, as I told you before, like last week, is it too late?
And the answer to that question is no. Warren Buffett didn't make most of his money until after age 65. So it's never too late.
Right.
I was never taught financial literacy growing up, so.
The same thing, but I'm here to support you, but I'm also here to know how to invest in saving and invest money because I have a small company, like a construction company.
Yep.
I work for a few people in here in this church. You can, you know, I make some money, you
Right.
know, but the reason I'm here is,
We need a lot of money.
no, you don't want like-
How much you make back?
I don't know how to save, I guess, or I don't know how to invest.
Okay.
Because I can tell you, if I can invest $1,000 a week,
Okay,
I can do, I have the potential to invest $1,000 a week, but I don't know how.
okay.
So I get my money in the bank, I don't know where the money is from.
Yeah.
So, you know, I want, a plan.
Yeah.
Because I got big family, it's 6 kids, and I got 2 in college already, so, and I don't have time for them.
Okay.
So, and then like you said before, it's 2 unit family. You
Yeah.
got 4 and I got 2. So I don't want the stuff, like, you know,
Yeah.
like you say, happen in the future. How I grew up, it's like, kind of like he said, is your sister, question for you, sir. Is your sister the little ones?
Yeah, she's the youngest.
We
one.
grew up like that.
Yeah.
Say, whatever is little, the property is going to her, the house is going to her. My dad passed away in 2008, right? So I grew up thinking like the house and the property that he have with my mom, it's gonna be for her, right? So my brothers, we live in like Thor, right? It's like probably half the icon. Like my mom had that thing in mind that no, you guys gonna have, everybody's gonna have part in that.
Part of it.
I said, Mom, I don't wanna World War III with my brother, so. Because I know how they are. My part can go to my sister, I'm okay with it. So,
That's a legitimate issue.
yeah, so that's how I grew up, and I just wanna know how to invest, because I think like, I starting business, I feel like I have a lot of potential, it's a lot to
Okay.
do, I have a lot of work to do, but I'm scared to be making money just to make it, and the money disappear out of nowhere, so
Okay.
I'm rolling in circles.
We'll go through a few scenarios for that.
Okay.
That's good.
I'm sort of in a similar situation, but I think in my case it's like I also want to know how to invest.
Mhm.
I'm in a stage in my life where it's like it's near the end kind of thing.
Yep.
So it's like and again, money disappears. It's like I have the savings mentality,
Mm-hmm.
but I do not know the roots very well to be able to really compound what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Sir?
I feel like, my wife and I are hitting our goals in terms of being generous and saving, but I've been pretty, hands-off on the investments, so lots of like index funds and stuff.
Mhm.
So I'm starting thinking about ethical, funds and, yeah, just other
Okay.
ways I can do it.
All right, maybe we'll touch a little bit on that. Doc?
Yeah, my background is in academia,
Mm-hmm.
so I have a few 403Bs.
I knew you had money, Doc. It's all on his face, Pat. It's all on his face. It's money resides here.
So I'm trying to figure out the best place to put them, and I just retired
Yep.
a week or 2 ago. And so I'm trying to figure out where to best put those funds.
Yep.
So that they're not kind of draining out faster than I can, reach them. So, but also I'm appreciative of the church giving us this opportunity and having us come together and learn as a body.
Okay.
Maybe a couple of reasons. I think, first and foremost, maybe I just, been thinking more about death recently and the fact that,
Yeah.
claiming at whatever age, and I don't know. Yeah, just thinking about, making plans and having them made just so that,
Okay.
so when I heard the states and trust union discuss, it was good. But also like investing, I'll just be transparent. I was a finance major in school. Like I thought when I graduated, I was gonna like go move to a large city and like work in the stock market or
Yeah.
other investments. And then like I don't know, a couple things like maybe God lit something under me, and I'm not at all judging. Like I respect you and I'm glad you do what you do, but like there was something about me that like in my head I was just like, if money is your primary motivator, you're messed up. You need to like decide anyway. I think it might have been. Like I wanted to make a lot of money, so I think God kind of woke me up to that and shifted course for me. And I went into some different business, and kind of related to that, I've just had a kind of interesting mindset with respect to money. Like I mean, I save and like I get investing as a concept, but like I've maybe veered a little bit further away from like thinking actively about letting money work for me and like caring at all about, I've been more the dude that like in the parable that just like chucked the money away and said, I'm not gonna think about it, and then as opposed to like being wise with like how to invest. So
That's fair. That's a really good fair. That's cool. Yeah.
Couple different reasons for me. And I'll say probably a year to 18 months ago, I really started kind of diving into the whole investing thing from outside of like 401k stuff that I do through work. Like I've been doing that for the last 30 some years. Like I was really smart and took advice from my dad. Like he said, as soon as you get a job, you have the opportunity, whether it's 1%, 5%, you tuck that away out of every paycheck. And I did that. But recently, I started trying to think like, well, how can I make a little bit of money into a lot of bit of money that benefits my family? Like, I tried to develop a why for what I wanted to do with it. So every year we typically take a vacation. All right, how can I invest money that contributes toward offsetting the cost for vacation? And so I just started with that type of mentality, with the hopes that, okay, maybe it grows into something larger.
Yeah.
But now, that's my why.
Sure.
Alright, my name's Robert Vincent, well, I came over here, it was nice, but when I heard about the class, the financial, I always came up as a kid in Cleveland, Ohio, and I had a little thing, when I came up, how to live without money. And I was trying to see something, so it was a guy in my neighborhood, Mr. Davis, who took some of the kids in my block coming up as little kids. And we used to wonder, this guy, man, we thought as kids he was the richest one on the block. But he never carried cash. And we always wondered, how can you get this and get that coming up? And even though coming up as a young man in Chicago, I've been around lawyers, different one as a tradesman at the museum, and I seen they got a thing called the 500 Fortune of Women at the Field Museum. And by working at the museum, I looked at these women like, man, and I seen some things. And now that I've reached 65, I wonder, man, can I, is it too late, to live without money?
Answer is no, never too late.
I don't know about these guys. I'm here for food. What's something like last week? I'm being up and downstairs. I'm trying to help Pastor Kevin with some stuff he's doing there, cooking, he's doing everything. But I do want to learn about investing because I make this real short. At one point in time, years ago, it was to a point because I've been married twice. It's my second marriage. First time I was married, after a couple of years, we got separated, and years went on, we're still separated, whatnot. It got to a point where, since we had children, as long, in our divorce agreement, when we finally got divorced, in our decree it stated, if she's not working, I can claim them, even though they live with her. Okay, cool. So I was claiming the kids, and there were some times when I had to pay a lot of arrears get all those realtors from FDC, GA, all that stuff, and back then W2. So when I finally started seeing that money, I was like, wow. They sent me a $3 check. I thought it was a joke. Come to find out, a week later, I got a $700 check. A week after that, I got a $1,200 check. This is all from the government. It's because somebody gave me some advice to write to the judge and let them know, hey, can I be forgiven for this arrearage? So, at one point in time, I claimed my kids and getting the child care claim that you would get. I got almost as much as $9,100. One time, claiming them, and I was like, oh my gosh. I did take the money and put it towards something good, like putting furniture in the house, bedroom set, living room set. So I looked at it like I invested it. But then when I fast forward from then, I can say that now, but I say like within the last 10 years, was seeing the money I was getting, and as it got older, it's gonna get to a point where I couldn't claim them, and she wasn't working because she was on my SSI, so boom. I was thinking about all that money that I probably could have invested, not just saved. I wanted to invest. I wanted to see the money grow because I've always heard it, but Marcus didn't do it. I've always seen it, but I never tried it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, and then it gets to this point, and look at me, paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, and imagine if I would have invested that. So yes, investment is definitely what I want to learn about. I want to learn about investing, and even if I could put some money into something, perhaps seeing if I could grow interest, something. It's time. I ain't getting no younger. No offense, y'all. None of us is. So boom. And I'll be back. I gotta check on Kevin. So
And I must say this, man, coming up, is junk is money? Investment? Junk. Cause all my uncles, aunties, they had junk. Junk garage, junk furniture, they had junk. When we die, we gonna have junk. And I always thought that, you know, people be fighting for the dollar. And I said, man, if I could get all my aunties and uncles, probably 22 from Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, Chicago, Missouri, and keep their junk, I've been a millionaire then. The junk, so that's my question. Is junk
Anything
money?
can be potentially money if it's marketed and used right, or if there's a strategy and game plan for it. It's the reason why people would break into people's houses, taking all the copper and stripping them out. It's junk, but it costs money. It's valuable. So anything that could potentially have some value to somebody, whether it's a product, a service, a mindset, can add value. So if it can add value to somebody and somebody's willing to buy it, regardless of what it is, I mean, think about it, you all, and I want to get to this. And when they started doing a bunch of the crowdfunding stuff, I would go on, as I told you all, I think last week, I do a little bit of micro venture investing where I take some of my assets and I buy, invest in companies. These places, these crowdsourcing places where everybody can chip in about money. I've seen skillets,
Right. I
be valued at $200,000, or the person that make a skillet. It's a skillet. It was no better or different from any other skillet. But this person who was making skillets was raising like $200,000-$300,000 for a skillet. Somebody, if they can find value to it. So let's do this. Let's take a 2-minute break, or let's take 5 minutes, and then we're gonna come back and get into this, because I don't want y'all sitting too long.
You said something. What I said? You said something about how do you?
say you did a good job.